Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation as part of the Industry Insight webinar series. The topic this time is Google Advertising for Lawyers. Get your firm found online. Speaking today will be Brad Keys of 180 Fusion and Amy Swartz of Google. Brad Keys provides strategy on enterprise accounts at 180 Fusion, determining the most profitable and sustainable mix of online initiatives. He has contributed his expertise in SEM and SEO to Business to Community, SEM Rush, Forbes, Huffington Post, and Marketing Pros. Amy Swartz is the lead of traditional media sales enablement for SEM Premier Partners at Google. She's responsible for the education of Google's products, sales, and strategy to the North American Premier SMB partners. Originally from Buffalo, New York, Amy has spent the last 18 years in California and recently moved to New York City. The presentation today will be followed by a Q&A. Please enter your questions into the question box in the webinar panel on the right side of your screen. All questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. We're recording this webinar and we will be sending a video and a follow-up email in a few days. We'll also post the video on our blog at www.lawtechnologytoday.org. Thank you all for joining us. We'll now begin the webinar.
Great. Thanks, Austin. So, yeah, my name is Brad Keys. I'm technically Director of Sales and Strategy at 180 Fusion. My role ultimately at the end of the day is to figure out, hey, what is the most profitable way that we can help you grow online? How can we get you leads that make sense to fill up your book and do it in a very sustainable and ultimately really profitable way. So a lot of the pieces that we cover that with are going to be a paid search platform, i.e. a Google AdWords. Obviously there's other paid mechanisms like Facebook advertising and other elements through display that are core competencies of ours. There's search engine optimization and being found, especially when it comes to local searches for these near me searches. Google Maps, optimization being of utmost importance as well for and Google Local Business. Email marketing, web design, all of those are obviously insanely important components of your marketing to ultimately define those that are really looking for your services and putting yourself in front of them and being able to convert those leads into real business. So myself, yeah, I've been at 180 Fusion for over 4 years. I've been in the digital arena for well over 10 years now. But as mentioned, a lot of various places that I've been published. But here, we work at 180 Fusion not just with attorneys. We have a great segment of our business that is attorneys, but we're not vertical specific, meaning that we are able to take a lot of what's happening kind of industry-wide and cross it over. We don't believe in any kind of cookie cutter or just in-the-box solutions. Everyone has somewhat of a different place where they are. So ultimately, our role is to figure out, take where you are, take where what the competition is, and obviously exceed what they're doing and do it as profitable as we can. So that's a little bit on me. I did go to Florida State University, so go Noles if there's any Noles in there as well. And then I'm actually going to turn it over to Amy. The way that the webinar is going to work, I'm going to intro Amy now. Amy will actually drive some of the Google data and insights, and then I'll be able to help us from there on how to leverage those insights and give you some more value there. So with that, I'll turn it over to Amy.
Thanks, Brad. Hi, everybody. My name is Amy Swartz. I have the pleasure of working with Brad at 180 Fusion. I am with Google. Been here for a little over a year. I have been in advertising for many, many moons and on the digital side for about 10 years. I've worked with attorneys all over North America in both traditional and digital media, so I understand, everybody from the one attorney firm to the many attorney firms and what you're looking to do. And at Google, what we want to do is help make it simple for you and have you work with one of our premier partners so that you can go practice law and they can make your advertising dollars work. So with that, we'll get started. This is a huge number that every time I see it, I'm still actually baffled in my mind, because there are trillions of searches going on globally every year, trillions of searches on Google. And what does that mean? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to an attorney? What does that mean for you getting leads online? Well, what we know is, next slide please, Brad, is that 5 billion of those searches are for legal services. So of those trillions of searches in the US, 5 billion of them are for legal services. So you ask, how do I get those leads? How do I get my portion? How do people know that I'm practicing estate as opposed to bankruptcy? How do they know that? How do we get our message out there? Well, of those 5 billion searches, 2.7 billion happened from a PC, which is about 54%. Very interesting that for attorneys, 41% of legal searches happen on a mobile device. And a very small portion, or 5%, are happening on a tablet. So how do we capture people's intent? Because if I am looking for an attorney on my way to work, it's going to be different if I'm on my mobile device as if I'm on my laptop, really ready to do research. How do we capture people all along the way with those 5 billion searches for legal services that were looked for last year? Well, as I said, 41% of searches are done on a mobile device for legal services. That is a huge amount. And we talk about the purchase funnel, we talk about the consumer journey and what that means to you. And what that means to you is, how do I capture somebody when they just start searching? When I'm just thinking that I need to, plan my estate, that I need an attorney today, or I might need one for my father that's planning his estate. How do I find one then? I'm going to throw a question out to everybody, which makes it kind of difficult when we are on a webinar. But the number 159 million, think to yourself, why would I be asking you that today? Well, what does 159 million mean? What 159 million means is that of all of those searches I was talking about, there were 159 million visits to ads that attorneys had placed online in the last 12 months. So are you getting your message out there? Are you one of those options when somebody's searching? So what happens next, right? I type in legal services. Well, here's what happens next. 43% are going to choose legal services that are close to their home and office, right? We all want convenience today. Then 68% are going to check legal services on the website. So you have to make sure that you have the right information, that it's up to date. If you have a premier attorney that's a partner, you want to make sure that you're focused on that. And 56% are going to take no further action because they just didn't get enough information. Because when they went to your website, it didn't tell them your hours. It didn't tell them the specialties, things like that. So we need to make sure that we, again, have the right information out there. So at Google, we ask, how do we help you win those moments? How do we help you win all of the opportunities in the smallest moments that might seem inane? Well, one thing that we do know is today we don't go online, we live online, right? I'm certain that some of you are looking, of course you're not looking at it because I'm speaking and this is an interesting topic, but there's a smartphone next to you right now. Because we don't go online, we live online. We are looking at our mobile device constantly during the day. And what does that mean? That means that we have what are called these micro moments, these very small moments that happen daily. Because we look at our phones about 150 times a day. And we look at them for about 1 minute and 22 seconds each. So dozens upon dozens of times during the day. And in these micro moments, we have put them into 5 different categories to really simplify it for you. We have the I want to watch moments, the I want to know moments, the I want to go moments, the I want to do moments, and the I want to buy moments. We talk about the fact that, that YouTube is the #1 platform between 18 and 34-year-olds. And that's actually, all of us are out there watching YouTube moments. Something else, those of you that are doing Television, the I want to know moment, just trying to get an idea. Do I need an attorney? Is it something that's going to make sense for me? If you are doing TV advertising, actually digital works great with that because 66% of people that are looking at a TV ad will then pause and then Google that information. We're going to talk a little bit more about the I want to go moments. The I want to do moments, think about this. How many of you in the past week, think about the last time you looked on YouTube for something that you had to fix in your house, something that you wanted to know about? There's 100 million hours of content that has been uploaded to YouTube and watched in the past year, which is amazing. And then the I want to buy moments, because 82% of us, while we're actually out there shopping and looking and comparing, when we are in a store, we're actually shopping and looking and comparing while we're there. So we have to make sure that somehow you are touching your potential clients. So I want to take a minute and chat with you a little bit more about the I want to go moments, the near me moments. We know that that twofold has risen in searches in the past year. So what that means is, I talked about convenience before. It's even more important now, more than ever, that you let your clients know that you are in a proximity that is easy for them to find. So how else are we going to help you impact buying decisions and in these mobile moments? Well, first of all, you must be present to play. You must be there. Secondly, we've got to give useful information. And thirdly, we've got to be quick. We are less patient than ever today. So in that micro moment world, when I talked about being there, as I said, we must be present to win. We've got to make sure that you have the opportunity to, in fact, sometimes, I'll say it as nicely as I can, steal from your competitor. Because if you are there online when somebody's searching and your competitor isn't, guess what? You have a chance of actually gaining that business. Again, you must be present to win. So you must be present to win. That's the first piece. The second piece is you've got to be useful. Right? We've got to be giving our potential clients useful information, and you know what would be useful for your clients, right? Because 73% of consumers say that when they get useful information all along the way, that they're more likely to do business with you. So it's not just what we call about when somebody's ready to click. It's about when I'm doing research and I'm not ready to call you. I'm not ready to click on the ad. Am I finding out information that makes me feel more comfortable with you, that you are trustworthy, that you are going to keep my confidence? That's really important. And then not only being useful, but also being quick. And you're going to hear a lot about this from Google this year. We have what's called a moonshot, and we want to make sure that sites are loading in lightning speed. And why is that? Again, I've said it before, and I will say it again, people are less patient than ever. Because the bad news is that 1 out of 5 people that is not happy with their experience in getting to your site will not return ever. And we don't want that to happen to you. We like to say, if speed thrills, then friction kills. So you've got to make sure that you are quick and that your site is loading in lightning speed. So again, to make my point, the load time, we would like it ideally to be 2 seconds or less, because 47% of consumers say that that's what they expect. Isn't that great that their expectations are kind of unreasonable? But it doesn't really matter because those are the expectations. So one of the things that Brad and 180 Fusion can do for you is test your site to see how it is running. So I'm going to chat with you about mobile sites a little bit so I can give you a better idea, because it is so important to you and to the success of any campaign that you run. And I'm going to give you a few more statistics here because I believe this is really important. When asked, when we did a survey, what do you dislike most about browsing on your mobile device? And the responses were 46% said waiting for a slow page to load. Right? We talked about how important speed is. Almost half the people said that. That tells us that speed is more important than ever. Next slide, please. So as I said, I was going to talk to you a bit about the moonshot that we have here at Google. And our moonshot is our vision. Like, what can we make happen? And our moonshot is to get your sites to load in 5 seconds or less. Now, here's what it means to you. We know that when we get your site to load from 15 seconds to 7 seconds, that you will have a 7% increase in your conversions. From 7 seconds to 5 seconds, you'll have a 4%. And look at that, 5 seconds to 3 seconds. Overall, you'll have an increased conversion of people going to your site of 23%. I'm certain we all want that. We all want the right traffic going to our site. So again, that's one thing that you're really going to want to be looking at as you're setting up any type of digital campaign. Because at the end of the day, and bottom line people here, you're running a business, page speed does equal money. And I know that you all want to do a good job, that you all want to represent your clients well. We have to also make sure at the end of the day that you're able to make money doing it. And page speed will definitely help do that in digital advertising. So to wrap up my piece, I have a couple key questions for you, and I want you to ask yourself, what do your potential clients want to learn about your services, right? What's important for them to know about you? What is the key action you want them to use? And what do you want them to do on your mobile site? How is your mobile site performing? Is it the same experience on my mobile site as it is on a laptop? Do you have a how-to video to support your efforts? And lastly, are we just touching them at the bottom of the funnel when they're ready to pick up the phone, when they're ready to fill out a form, when they're ready to click on the ad? Or are you touching them all along the way so they can have trust when they're ready to do business with you? And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brad that's going to talk to you about the value of the partnership with 180 has with 180 Fusion has with Google. Clearly, we are on this call with them today, and they are a premier partner. So they are of the highest ranking with Google, and we work very closely with them. And that's why one of the reasons that Brad is so knowledgeable and able to help you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brad. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Amy. So that was a lot of really great data. I mean, a lot of that can be, gone across several different industries and verticals, regardless of what the business is. But specifically for attorneys, we're really talking about lead generation. We're not talking about a direct sale off of a website. We definitely, when you talk about the value of a partner, obviously there's the time of doing all of this yourself. There's the knowledge and expertise that's required. There's ultimately, is this a good use of your time or desire, as well as resources. So those are all things that we bring to the table. Quite frankly, we love what we do, and this is exactly what we do day in and day out, and it is the most exciting thing to us, and it's why we get out of bed in the morning. So there's that element of it. I'm just going to kind of break down some of the steps, and I think it's really important to back up, because a lot of agencies and anyone that you really go to, they'll just plug your website in the URL into some tools, and they'll plug all your competitor sites into some tools, and they just kind of is this whole tool comparison. It's really important to back up and just kind of take an actual look at the search results. That's kind of bar none. You can really baseline how competitive that it looks like, what Google is favoring in terms of ads versus organic. What all of that looks like, and get a baseline in terms of obviously who's there, who are your real online competitors. My favorite is when people say they don't have any online competitors, and then you Google that keyword keyword, and there's 75 competitors. So worth noting, who at least is going after a specific search phrase. As we say, Google is getting more and more away from just keyword specifics, getting more into topics. Still, ultimately, people are still searching keywords. There's a lot of interesting statistical data. If we have 100 people search for personal injury attorney, 15% of those searches are going to be brand new. So we want to make sure that we're using things like broad match within our AdWords accounts. But this was an example of who's actually showing up on Google, and this is based in the Chicago area. So we actually have these guys, this firm at the top, and then we actually have the local listing section, the map section here as well. And one thing that's really important, I'll really dig into the Google local business pages, because all of these, you have to have a Google local business page. You can see, star ratings are in here. You can really start incorporating those into your ad copy as well. So I was just mentioning, for this gentleman, for Staver Law Group, 80 Google reviews. It's important to be able to establish a lot of that trust on the front side. And Amy made a lot of great points, about touching them kind of along their journey. How better than to be able to touch them on the outside with some trust as well. Another big piece I think that's important and somewhat overlooked, everyone wants this flashy website, and they'll give a few different examples that are maybe not even relative to their industry of websites that they like. But obviously it's important to identify your prospects' modalities. So what I mean by this is that, someone who's seeking a DUI attorney is probably going to have a much different modality, and it could be the same person, just different circumstance, than someone who's after a divorce attorney, say. So it's really identifying what the modality looks like. Is it going to be a very fast decision that's more based on the competitive, that what makes your solution the best? How can we really speak to this within both our ad copy, our landing page, our website, our content, our blog content? And so what we really try to do is look at this quadrant of these 4 different modalities and say, hey, well, we're actually looking at someone who's starting this discussion about a divorce. So we want to look more at this like methodical and humanistic based. It's a little bit of a slower process. So how does the solution work, that you're making sure that you're walking people through those pieces, both from the things on the outside, the ad copy, as well as what they're seeing when they're actually clicking on that ad, or they're going to the home page, or really whatever page of your website. So logic versus emotion, fast versus slow. It just is a good snapshot in terms of how we look at this. So this is an example of a site that is dedicated to family law. So what I say for step 3 is to really optimize your website to speak to that specific modality. So there's a lot of things that I like about this site, actually. It's not stock photography. That's actually it's a good photo. It's a very clean website. There's not a lot of mess going on. And here's actually some of the good pieces that I think that I just highlighted. I do like the kind of the clever headline that's integrated in here. We have a really good call to action. When you actually click on this, a drop-down kind of contact us form expands out to make for a pretty nice user experience. It's a good relatable image. Someone who's looking for a family attorney or divorce law. This is really what they're going through, right? So we also have a lot of these different social proof elements on the what we call kind of like a trust ribbon, or trust ribbon on the bottom portion. This is all above the fold, so everyone is really seeing this when they're actually going to the site. And then obviously really important is that they have the phone number as well. So when this gets into a responsive and a mobile site, the phone number is right there at the top with a click to call, which makes it very, very easy to take the action that we're looking for the prospects to take. Also, and that was a good example, I think, of a very clean home page of a website. Landing pages are very, very effective. It does not mean you need to have this, even if you're starting out, you could start off with something as little as a landing page. That's literally one sheet. One thing that's very interesting about landing pages is that they convert at a much higher clip than just having a website, a 5-page or a 25-page or a 250-page website. The inherent issue with these large and robust websites is they contain many, many links all throughout. That robust navigation that you saw and has secondary navigation and drop downs. Well, those are all quote-unquote leaks in the conversion rate optimization world. So making sure we have a very clean and concise call to action, right? We're really looking for a phone number, or we're looking for a form to be filled out, you know, as well as being able to get some of the good things above the fold. This was just, you know, an actual, well, John Smith, we all know that guy. So this is an example of one of the pages without actually real content on it. But just to give you some context for what best practices would be for a landing page. So that has some of those pieces there as well. Google Local Business, super important. If you haven't done this, this is a huge part of the local rankings algorithm. It also is really important for you if you're running ads. So you can actually run ads now in this upper section of the maps when someone is clicking on a Google Maps. Also, just within a normal Google Maps search result as well, you'll be able to see these. Location extensions, you can use these with Google, your Google Local Business page. All of these are really important. You know, also, again, you know, you can see that Google really tends to be favoring those that have high number of reviews. And from that as well, quite frankly, even if it's not completely baked into the algorithm, people are clicking on those because they have a higher number of reviews. So they historically actually, you know, this one where we have like law offices of Howard J. Wise with 15 over Fred Mark Dry, who's actually rated higher. A lot of times these guys will actually get a higher click-through rate, and these guys actually show that they're closed now. I'm not sure what time I did this search, but they're kind of killing their conversion rate with what I'm seeing here. This is even if we look now, this probably has outranked that one. So this is just important, and I'm more than happy to send you guys. We can't send you the whole Google deck after the webinar, but happy to send you at least a Google Local Business page checklist, because all of these are very important pieces. It's something that you really want to make sure that we're checking off. One big thing that I'll say with Google Plus and kind of being able to post to Google Plus, there's not a lot of companies that do it very effectively. What we do at 180 Fusion is we'll actually be able to join some circles, both industry specific as well as geography and geo-specific circles, which are also known as like groups. Be able to join those, post relevant content to those groups, and be able to increase our readership there, and also be able to just kind of build your brand that way. Compelling ad copy, you know, I think this is very important as well, and really being able to speak to some of the benefit statements that you really offer. So these were two examples. This is divorce attorney in Miami, you know, divorce law in Miami, Florida, convenient Kendall location. Family Law, MiamiFL.com. I don't really know anything about who these people are. I guess we can really try to dig it out and find out if it's Granoff and Kessler. They do have, you know, which speaks well for them, as they have this location extension. The ad itself says types, marital and separate property, spousal support, child custody, and visitation preferences, ... As opposed to this ad, you know, which is actually running in the second position. You have to remember Google AdWords is basically an auction. I mean, there's a lot of minutia that does go into that, but we do actually have, you know, if someone is doing a search for family law, we have both, you know, the actual search query, and then we have the geography, we have the name of the business there. Then we start getting into some really good value propositions, you know, 15 years of experience in family law. You know, call today, that's a good to be able to have some call to action. Yes, call us right away. Aggressive representation, protects your rights, compensation available. All looks really good to me in terms of a better example of ad copy. Now, again, you know, this is in the second position. These guys are paying less. My guess is they have a higher click-through rate. They have a higher quality score, so they could be paying, you know, a third of what these guys are paying. You know, their budget stretches further, so they're able to get a larger impression share and be able to have more searches each month. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that can fuel a lot more queries and ultimately more bookings in business. Conversion tracking, very, very important. Not enough companies do this effectively, but it's obviously one of the ways that you're able to really chart everything and really track everything back. You know, how many impressions did I get? If it's just going to an ambiguous phone number and you don't have that phone number tracked in any way, shape, or form, you're just basically losing the data, and you're going to lose the game, quite honestly. So that's what all the competitors are doing. Just making sure that you're really being able to make some attribution for searches. You know, obviously once a phone call is made, we can track that phone call back to the ad that they clicked on. We can obviously track that back to the search that was made as well. So all of those are very important things to see, hey, really what is working within the account, what is not working, what can we bid down on, what can we bid up on, and then really getting feedback from you. What does lead quality really look like? So even within this report, there's another dashboard where you can actually look at those phone calls. If you want to record phone calls, we have those capabilities. Sometimes there's some compliance issues, so we don't, but in a lot of cases we do. And what that allows our analysts to do, as well as yourself, is to go in there into your dashboard and to rate that lead quality between 1 to 5, and obviously 5 being the best, and 1 being bad. Another big piece, and what Amy touched on as well, is being able to kind of speak to other people along the way when they're starting to have some, just more information seeking than intent. So a blog is a great way of doing that. It establishes yourself as a thought leader. It's a great way to figure out, hey, when I'm getting a phone call, what are the first 3 things that I'm getting asked consistently? We can speak to that in the blog. It really helps to kind of create a bond and really resonates well with your prospects. Obviously, you can be up to date if your law practice is specific to different policies, different areas of practice. It is great for SEO. You have more pages, a more robust site. AMP is actually accelerated mobile pages. I'll talk about this in the next slide, and then we can really start building links to those blogs. Basically, just getting, if you're creating an information resource, we're able to reference those on other websites that link back to your blog, and then ultimately should bolster the authority of your website and raise your organic ranking. So those are all really good pieces of having a blog. I don't see enough law firms be able to really leverage that in a good way. So we'll create a content calendar and be able to help support some of the other keywords and everything else that you're really looking to go after. Just a couple other quick things. Accelerated mobile pages, that has been around now for roughly a little bit over a year, but it was a accelerated mobile pages initiative. Your pages can load lightning fast, meaning that Amy was mentioning 2 seconds. These actually will load in milliseconds. So we do it for our clients. Basically, if you go to any of their blogs, you can click on, there's generally a lightning bolt. If you see something on like LinkedIn or something that's shared in social media, it has that little lightning bolt. Click on those. They load lightning fast. They're actually uploaded to a Google cache, which kind of takes out the mess of them going through the normal process of having a whole site kind of load up. So it's a very, very convenient way to be able to help increase your conversion rate and ultimately just to increase your readership as well. So to optimize the ad account, this is kind of a little bit of the nuts and bolts. Obviously, you always want to historically bid up on the top performers, bid down on the low performing keywords. That kind of goes without saying, right? We always want to do things in an A/B split testing manner, so to determine which ads are really performing the best, which ads are getting higher click-through rates, which ads are actually generating phone calls, what is the lead quality of those phone calls. And so we'll test always, ads in segments of 2 at a time and do some multivariate testing with those. And then once a winner is really proven at 95%, we'll take that winning ad, and then we'll run another ad that changes one other element to see where we can still push the needle. Conversion rate optimization, that's doing A/B testing of different elements on the website as well. It's even changing things like the headline or the hero image, or even down to what the text says on the call to action or the color of that call to action button. So all of those different elements in terms of making sure that the age-old adage that when the horse gets to water that it drinks ultimately. So we always want to make sure that we're also combing through your search terms, creating out any negative keywords or different modifiers for keywords that are driving an irrelevant traffic to the site. There is broad match, which can do that, where you can, if you are a divorce attorney, there could just be other divorce-related searches that are happening that your ads start appearing for, and some people are clicking on. So making sure that we're negativing those out so that doesn't tend to cause any bleeding from the account, and we can be as profitable as possible. See obviously which devices perform best. There's this huge rise in mobile, but it doesn't always mean that it's always the best. So you really have to look at the metrics. What is my cost per lead on a mobile device? What does my cost per lead look on a desktop? What is my budget, right? I mean, if my budget can't support all of this, and I have a much higher CPL on a desktop, then I might just run mobile-only ads and do a lot of call-only ad campaigns. So it always is a little bit of a basis with what you have to work with, and obviously how we can really optimize that in the best way. Think of us as kind of a hedge fund with the chip, so to speak. Modifiers on geographic areas, a lot of times we'll do negative modifiers depending upon, further away from your geo or closer to competitors. And then obviously expanding keyword groups, display, things like remarketing, retargeting, making sure that if someone has been to the site, they haven't converted, that we're still being able to be kind of in front of them, right? So that they're still being able to be more aware of our brand. And a lot of the data is that, hey, they need to see you, 11, 12 times before being able to feel comfortable with you. Well, now that they've been to your website and then they go to their social media feed and they see an ad for you or they see a piece of content that you posted, it obviously can only help. So those are really good ways in terms of optimizing an ad account.